Hello, and welcome to the Technology Plagued for Fedora Fiction Podcast YouTube edition. The handful of you that have been very generously following this have probably noticed that some of the videos uploaded did not have any audio. I did not realize this until a couple days ago. Um, but, no audio in a podcast is kind of the point. I wish I could tell you that I fired the sound engineer, but he is also the producer, writer, and, the host. And it's kind of hard to get rid of him. So we hopefully have all the technical issues solved, and I am now re-recording some of the episodes that were um, recorded or at least uploaded without sound. So this is a chapter 5, LEIDEWEIRA, take 2. Oh, by the way, we're reading from Throwback Book 1, Ares Triumphant. Chapter 5, LEIDEWEIRA. O'Shea opted to bring the magnetic field unit down first, as this included equipment for a workshop in addition to cabling and a fusion reactor. Even so, the delivery was delayed a day as a dust storm on the surface made it risky to bring anything down from orbit. O'Shea did his best to occupy his time with exercise and planning. The gravity on Mars being a third of that on Earth, he consciously spent several hours on resistance exercises to maintain his muscle mass and bone density. As for planning, he pored over the inventory of parts and equipment in the unit that Lima provided to work out how he could produce a powerful but portable transmitter to be used to survey and map the tunnels. The storm has passed, Lima reported as he sipped ancient freeze-dried coffee. Activating cargo retrieval. How soon should it be here? O'Shea asked. If all goes as planned, the unit should arrive 48 hours, 26 minutes, and 13 seconds, Lima replied. That's a big if, O'Shea noted dryly. We're depending on 3,000-year-old equipment. He took another resigned sip of his coffee. I take it the delay is due to the fact that everything is still being routed through the ground-based cargo station. Yes, that's where the drones are. That reminds me. I need to look at the code for the drones, he said, rising and fetching a tablet. There should be a back door for a manual override. There is, Lima reported confidently. I used it to get the habitat down here under the ice. O'Shea closed his tablet slowly. So you've already programmed a manual override? Yes. You're not leaving me much to do. He sat back down at the table. You'll have plenty to do once the workshop gets here. Yes, I suppose so, O'Shea sighed. Any response at all from the Martians? What? Oh, no. They seem determined to ignore us. That's odd, O'Shea said, frowning. You'd think the arrival of a 3,000-year-old man would excite some curiosity. They seem to be a little xenophobic, Lima offered. A little. You have a gift for understatement. He sipped his cooling coffee. What else have you been able to find out about them? Oh, well, they seem to lack a central authority. We knew that days ago, O'Shea said shortly. Anything new? No, Lima said simply. No, haven't you been monitoring their communications? There was a long pause. No, Lima answered finally. I failed to see the point. You failed to see the point, O'Shea repeated, dazed with astonishment. Yes, Lima confirmed defensively, and besides, you never asked me to continue monitoring their communications. O'Shea pondered that last statement. No, he said, still taken aback. I guess I didn't. He shook off his confusion and added, Don't you see any point in trying to establish contact with whatever civilization is here? No, not this one. What do you mean? Lima paused again. I stopped monitoring their communications after 3 days because it was so boring. It was endless, incomprehensible chatter. All my attempts to interject were ignored. But I thought you said they wouldn't allow you to place the habitat in the planned location. Another pause. I said I was unable to place the habitat in the originally planned location. It was too far from the only working cargo station. As for anything else, I may have misinterpreted what I heard. What? You mean they didn't instruct you to place the habitat here? O'Shea found himself even more astonished. I was programmed to assure your successful landing and revival on Mars, Lima continued in a defensive tone. I took what steps I determined necessary to achieve that. O'Shea nodded. Yes, he assured Lima. Yes, you did, and quite well under the circumstances. Thank you, Lima responded, but still peevishly. So that's why no one has come calling, O'Shea observed pensively. They don't even know we are here. But why didn't you tell me these things before? I didn't think they were relevant. Relevant? How could they not be relevant? O'Shea's voice was rising now. Besides, who are you? What are you to determine what is relevant? I am Nima, came the indignant reply. Language-enabled management algorithm, O'Shea interrupted. Not language-enabled. I decide what is relevant algorithm, whatever that acronym works out to be. LEIDEWEIRA, Lima pointed out. Thank you. You're not LEIDEWEIRA. There was a brief silence. So you're Idwer then? Lima asked finally. Idwer? Oh, he had to chuckle. Yes, I'm Idwer, but I prefer Adam. And I prefer Nima. LEIDEWEIRA sounds like a witch from a fairy tale. Or an evil queen, O'Shea agreed soothingly. I prefer Lima as well. He let a moment or two pass. Look, Lima, he said, I need to be kept informed about our circumstances. If you learn something, let me know, and I'll decide whether it's relevant. As you wish. Good. Now, what were we talking about? Reprogramming the cargo drones? Yes, thank you. Now, what I hope to do, that was our first fight, Lima observed ruefully. Yes, I guess it was. Now, about the cargo drones. According to the psychology archives, getting disagreements out into the open and working on them is a sign of a healthy relationship. Yes, O'Shea replied. That's my understanding. So, we have a healthy relationship. Yes, I would say so. Good. So you want to program the cargo drones to fetch that transport unit, correct? Yes. Fetch it to where? To the magnetic field unit so I can work on it. So the unit will have to be set up first. Yes. Let's hope the auto assembly feature works as well as it obviously did on the habitat. About that, Lima said tentatively. Now what? O'Shea asked dejectedly. The habitat power supply is a hydrogen generator. Yes. The magnetic field unit and workshop is powered by a fusion generator. Yeah, oh, O'Shea said crestfallen. All the tritium will have decayed. Yes. Well, he said dryly, it looks like I'll be taking another walk in my EVA suit. He was indeed in his EVA suit 2 days later, anxiously watching the large beetle-like cargo drone deposit the compacted magnetic field unit like a large cubic egg, and then lumber off down the tunnel that he explored days earlier. He circled the folded unit warily, as if he expected it to pounce. I'm not seeing the power access panel, he reported aloud. That's because it's on the other side, Lima countered, again sounding as if she were in the suit with him. At least that's where your specifications say it should be. O'Shea continued his wary circling of the unit. All right, he said. I see it. Now, you're sure you dropped it close enough for the auxiliary power cables to reach? According to your specifications, Lima repeated emphatically, the cables have a 25-meter reach. The two access panels are approximately 15.65 meters apart. Approximately? I have no direct means of measurement, Lima replied testily. There's a laser sight in your toolkit if you need a more precise measurement. Oh, you're teasing me again. You haven't done that since our fight, she remarked with an abrupt and fond change in tone. I still love you too. Actually, O'Shea began, about to point out that the 15.65 meters didn't take into account the needed slack in the cable and any obstacles it may have to snake around to reach the panel on the habitat, but thought better of it. He still needed Lima to let him back into the habitat, and he liked the fond Lima better than the testy one. All right, he repeated instead. I found the panel. So you said. You'll need an 8mm hex wrench to open it. So I recall, O'Shea replied dryly. He stepped carefully over to the unit and set his toolkit down and took deliberate care in opening it. The age of his suit and equipment cast a dark shadow over his mood. He selected the wrench and carefully applied it to the hex head of one of the 4 bolts securing the panel door. Anxiety, the thick gloves of the EVA suit, and the fact that the lower gravity made everything feel insubstantial made even this straightforward procedure clumsy and laborious. The bolt loosened without undue effort, and O'Shea carefully repeated the procedure on the other 3. As he did so, he recalled watching as a boy historical footage of early astronauts working in the various satellites and space stations of the late 20th century. He recalled wondering why they all seemed to be working in slow motion, as if the lack of gravity slowed all movement rather than freeing it. He understood those astronauts' deliberation now. He set the panel cover aside and returned the wrench to the toolkit. There is a subpanel within the panel with a hinged door, Lima reminded him. The reel of cables will be in there. I see it, O'Shea confirmed. The thickness of his gloves made it necessary for him to use both hands to get the door open, but once he did, he saw the spool of power cable. Unreeling the cable now. As he did so, he noted that the spring recoil on the spool respooled the cable as soon as he took tension off of it. There's supposed to be a recoil lock, he muttered. Perhaps it is frozen, Lima suggested. Why would that be? It's only minus 83, O'Shea noted sardonically. He returned to his toolkit and selected a 5cm hex wrench, as he thought it unlikely he would need that soon, and used it to jam the spool, where he released tension on the cable to pull it out another length. In that way, he unspooled all 25 meters into a tangled mess at his feet. This is not how I saw this working, he muttered grimly. He stepped carefully away from the cable, retrieved the toolkit, and walked over to the habitat. The power access panel should be 1 meter to the left of the auxiliary portal, Lima reminded him. It also takes an 8mm hex wrench. I see it, thank you, O'Shea assured her. He repeated his careful procedure for moving the access panel door on the habitat and located the port for the power cables. Don't forget that the default settings are for the magnetic field unit to export power, while the habitat's defaults are to import power, Lima said. You'll have to throw the flow switches on both units. I had forgotten that, O'Shea lied. Thank you, Lima. You're welcome. She sounds pleased with herself, O'Shea thought as he threw the required switches on the habitat panel. That's good. He returned to the still folded magnetic field unit and threw the switches there before beginning the tedious process of untangling the cable and carrying the end to the habitat. Given O'Shea's careful and deliberate pace, it was almost an hour before he had the cable untangled and extended to the habitat. His battery and atmosphere readings were showing yellow, and he himself was feeling fatigued. He was about to connect the cable to the habitat when he detected vibrations under his feet. The cargo drone has returned, Lima announced. Where do you want the transport unit? I want it in the magnetic field unit workshop, he replied, securing the cable to its connection. Please have the drone wait and initiate auto assembly. As you wish. But don't you want to return to the habitat first? Lima asked. Your suit is running out of power and oxygen. Besides, you don't want to be in the way if the auto assembly malfunctions. Good point, O'Shea admitted, heading to the airlock door now. He picked up his toolkit and made his way carefully around the habitat to the airlock, whose door was already open. He stepped in as the door closed, and the readings of exterior conditions showed an increase in atmospheric pressure and temperature. Pressure and temperature within specified parameters, Lima announced. Thank you, O'Shea said as he removed his helmet as the inner door opened to the habitat. Initiating auto-assembly, Nima announced as he removed his EVA suit. No, wait, please, I want to watch, O'Shea announced. As you wish, auto-assembly initiation halted. O'Shea hastily finished removing the EVA suit and set it in the recharging dock. He was about to rush through the habitat to the window overlooking the folded-up magnetic field unit when he stopped himself. It's not going anywhere, he reminded himself. He drew a calming breath and walked deliberately to the kitchen area to make a cup of coffee. Any time now, Lima suggested. What's your hurry? O'Shea asked. Do you have someplace else you need to be? No, of course not. Although the concept of being anywhere is merely a question of where my software resides. The only other place I could be for the moment is on the transport, and I am there already. Wait, O'Shea said, rooted to the spot. You're on the transport? You were only loaded on into the habitat. Yes, Lima sounded puzzled. How else would I have got us here to Mars? O'Shea nodded. I guess I didn't grasp that implication. So are you running in duplicate? Yes, but the two copies are synced every 60 seconds. I see. O'Shea sipped his coffee as he walked toward the window next to the auxiliary panel. What's it like being in two places at once? Lima didn't answer right away. I guess, she said finally, it's like being in one place, but the place is just bigger. Huh, O'Shea said thoughtfully. That actually makes sense somehow. He sipped his coffee. All right, Lima, you can initiate auto-assembly now. As you wish. O'Shea watched as the 5 of the 6 sides of the cube opened and unfolded. These then extended and unfolded additional panels until the walls of the unit were laid out on the ice. One by one, these walls lifted off the ice into a more vertical configuration that began to form a decahedral dome. All appeared to be going well until the next to last section was supposed to rise to vertical. It didn't. Lima, she asked, is everything okay? No, she answered curtly. The penultimate section is either jammed or not receiving power. Penultimate, O'Shea noted. Nice word. You checked the program for corrupt files? I ran a full diagnostic on the program before initiating auto-assembly and corrected any errors. Okay, O'Shea sighed. I guess I'm going back out there. You'd better cut the power until I figured out what's wrong. He walked back to the lockers with the EVA suits. As you wish, power to exterior unit cut. Might also want to shut the cargo drone down to conserve its batteries, he added as he put an unused EVA suit on. I don't know how long this is going to take. Good idea. Cargo drone shutting down. Seals appear to be functional, he observed, stepping into the airlock. Depressurized airlock, 1/10 atmosphere per minute. Depressurizing. Seals holding. Airlock pressure equal to outside atmosphere. All right, open the door so I can fix this puppy. Puppy? Lima asked as the doors opened. Oh, it is a colloquial expression from the late 20th century. Yes, O'Shea said as he made his way carefully to the stalled unit. Okay, I'll start by inspecting the section bearings. Sing out if you see something I miss. What song should I sing? Just pick one. O'Shea made his way across the flattened section of the dome, checking all the fittings and bearings on the moving parts. It was tedious and painstaking as well as fruitless. Everything seems to check out, he observed wearily. Did you see anything? I look where you look, Nima pointed out. I noted no abnormalities. O'Shea was standing in what would become the unit floor, looking back at the flattened section that would become part of the wall. Well, the next thing to check are the power connections and the assembly motors. He moved back along the section, manually checking power couplings. Each one he checked was firm, and as he came to the last one at what was to become the top of the section, noted, if this last one was okay, I'm going to have to remove each motor individually and test it. He stopped back to check the coupling, and it came away from his insertion point at his touch. Well, there's the problem, he said, stooping to insert the coupling into its socket. It was never properly. O'Shea suddenly felt himself rising at a rapid rate. and before he could apprise what was happening, found himself sailing over the top of the habitat, just missing the communications antenna array and colliding painfully against an icy wall. The last thing he heard before blacking out was a shrill alarm and an inflectionless voice reporting, "Seals ruptured, losing atmosphere, seals ruptured." That is the end of Chapter 5. If you are enjoying these podcasts, in spite of some of the loss of audio in the past, I invite you to like, subscribe, comment, and go to Amazon.com/author and /Tom Goss to get a hold of a copy of one of these novels. Thank you for listening. I'm Tom Goss.